Ibiza is our next destination, Jackie, for these two teams to throw down. Do we think that we're going to see any more of the same, or is this one going to be a little bit more one-sided?
You know what, honestly, based off that prior game, I would only hope that maybe this is now us seeing more vintage Team 1, more classic Team 1, and we're going to get all of the boys turning up. Because honestly, Tim, it still felt like it wasn't even the full roster that was performing. Obviously, we had Raps having a monstrous performance, and fair play to him. Nothing can take that away. But there is big names on that team that we expect to see doing damage, and they didn't.
They need to step up. They need to bring it here. We did see them sort of getting themselves into Clubhouse towards the end of things there, and they need to really find their feet and continue on here. Now, we will be heading in straight after these operator bans, of course. Ash and Jackal, interesting pairing of attacker bans there. Not two that we tend to see too often. Now, Jackal particularly interesting for me here on Coastline. The roam game isn't generally awfully strong. It's reasonably easy to shut down because you're limited to 2 staircases up and down, so rotations are not easy to make. If you bring a nomad along, generally you can force those roamers away and shut it down. Smoke and Echo being banned out as well. Smoke, an interesting one we don't tend to see banned out too often, but for me, the real interest when we talk about operators here, Jackie, is how we are going to see Coastline change. So previously, we used to see a lot of Hibana bans, and that was because Hibana from the rooftop could open up the quadruple wall that looks onto the bar in Hooker and Billiards, you know, the bar where Smoke usually hides behind and can play the smoke canister onto the default plant spot behind the bomb. Generally speaking, you could open that wall up with the Hibana, so you take Hibana out on the bans, and it meant that you could play the smoke in behind the bar. Now, there's another operator, Jackie, that has come along that is able to fulfill that exact same function. So unless you are going to commit to taking Ace and Hibana off the board, you've sort of got to accept the likelihood is that that wall is going to get open if the attackers wish to do so. So how are we going to see the evolution of the defense of that site, Hooker and Billiards? Now, straight away, we're going straight down to Kitchen. It's not a first choice anymore.
Oh, man. I think this is actually why it is so interesting that obviously, you know, from this season going forward from today, really, especially for us, this is where we're going to start to see that meta develop. And there's so many changes that come into it, especially considering last season, basically for all of it, Echo was pretty much banned out. Now also you've got Malusi and Ace coming into play. It does feel like it really has shaken a lot of the core standard meta that we saw throughout last season. And then adding on top of that, even some of the newer additions that we haven't really seen yet, right? We've got the new hard breaching tool, Tim. We've got a couple of the new changes, even just with the bomb design, where it's been blocked out so you can't really pixel peek through it, and it is completely blocked off to break line of sight now. There's so many slight quality of life changes that have come in this season. It's going to be crazy to just see how it develops. I'm thinking more like week 3, but I reckon the actual quality of Siege could change so much.
Oh, Shadow Legacy has been massive in terms of updates and quality of life, as you say. Guy just getting a kill onto Raps there. That's going to open things off in a similar fashion to what we saw back on Clubhouse with W7M coming in strong to begin with. And who else do you want to take off the board right now if it's not Raps, Jackie?
Oh, absolutely. He was 13-3, we found out in the end for last game, off the back of the rehost, of course, which is wild stuff. That is a huge performance to put up. And in fact, he's been shut down immediately. This does make the lives a little bit easier, although that isn't really going to help out too much. Sledge doing some renovation, but he is blown to bits. Hit by the business as the Nitro detonates, falls. Oh, he was trying his luck, Tim, teasing the rim there with Big Papa Pump, the shotty, waiting to detonate and take down another man, but he's not going to get 2 frags for free this round.
Certainly not. And we've not really focused too heavily so far today on the strategies that you're going to be seeing and what you can expect to see from these defenders and attackers. So here on Kitchen, generally speaking, the important area to gain control of to begin with for the attackers is going to be the top floor, particularly around Penthouse and VIP, because you can open up all that floor above the site. Now, 2 quick kills. Where have we seen that before from Redux? Once again, redacting Padrin and Freeze Out from history, taking them off the board. And that now leaves us 3 versus 2 in what was a quick swing in the man count advantage. Lukid is still active on the Caveira as well. Quite an unusual choice. We don't see too much Caveira, generally speaking, but proving to be a little bit of a nuisance right now. Not being tracked down yet and still active in the round.
3 versus 2. 40 seconds left. Lion coming into play. Trying to really assist the team here to bait them out on the info plays as they turn the corner. It's not ideal whatsoever, though. Philippok's just lying in wait. The sheer speed of the Vector is enough to tear you to pieces, but he's trapped behind the tree, and he's going to feel the terror. Herds overpowering him. Starts to sprint his way back around. Now, boiling it down into a 1 versus 2. The diffuser is in an awkward location, but he's been given a little bit of a clear pathway towards it. He can spot it on top of Ace's corpse, but he tried to push around the corner, Tim. The last down on the Zofia, not going to work out
The disrespect.
well. Oh, no, the interrogation killed to finish him. You got to feel for him, Tim.
I do. I do feel for him, Jackie.
Oh,
that is a rough way to finish the round. Luke just getting in there, hitting him with the disrespect and coming in for the big interrogation finish. It's one of those things you never even want to mention when Caveira's on the board. You don't want to risk jinxing it by wondering out loud if you're going to see an interrogation on the round, but that is exactly what happened. And beautiful footage on the replay there of Sledge just being destroyed by Falls, and that was a very important kill on the round. So as I was talking about strategy, generally speaking, you want that top floor control and to let your Sledge get in there, Penthouse VIP, open up the floor and make it very difficult for those defenders to remain in sight in the locations that they would preferentially stand in, force them to move around. But that was dealt with very early on by Falls with a well-placed Nitro, just predicting that beautifully, wiping him out of the round. And then it was all downhill for W7M, really, from there. It just went from bad to worse.
Like the rolling of the cheese, Tim. Just straight downhill. Everyone's tumbling over. No one can catch up with it. It's just a nightmare. There's going to be bruises, scrapes, broken bones. It's not good.
I've always wondered, you know, it's one of those things. It'd be a story to tell, wouldn't it? To say that you'd been and done it. It'd be a story to tell, yeah. But it does look very, very dangerous.
It would be quite fun. We'll see. We'll have a word with Face It. We'll see if somehow, you know, maybe for the promo of stage 3, Tim, we can go and do a bit of rolling of the cheese.
Logo on the cheese.
We'll give it a bash. I'm sure we can find some kind of hill near us.
Right now, W7M, they need to be careful they don't find themselves on a hill, and Herds is going to at least take a step towards the top of it with a kill onto Reduct to start things off. Now, that just suggests that Team 1, they're feeling a little bit brave here. They're feeling a bit cocky. They've got themselves settled after that first round, and they were going for that early round run out, but completely shut down by Herds, who was alive to the danger.
Scary stuff, then. Suffering a casualty that early on is never going to be a good move, especially when there could actually be a follow-up kill. Oof, dangling, trying to make that adjustment work, but the shots won't actually land, instead just causing Team 1 to scarper and back off. And they should, Tim. They need to slow this one down. You've already lost out on the manpower. If you can turtle a little bit here, wait and see if W7M will play into your hands. That'd probably work out better, but instead they go for the exact opposite. Raps on the Mozzie, goes wild, turns it up to big MPH as he sprints his way out, cleans up on the first. Philippok's is wilding as well, Tim. They're going nuts.
They are being so aggressive here. How about that from Raps? Hits him on the run out and then was just full sprint back towards office. Obviously receiving call-outs from Philippok's that that's where the push was coming. And W7M, they managed to temper that aggression somewhat, getting themselves a couple of kills on the board. 2 versus 2 now. Raps on low health, so there is still a lot of work for Team 1 to do in the round here. But the diffuser is down and cold on the ground. So W7M, they need to think about exactly how they are going to retrieve that safely. Now, in comes the nade unsuccessfully. So right now, the utility, that is starting to wane somewhat. It's starting to use and just not be successful. 2 versus 2, a minute left on the clock.
God damn. From the very high tempo just a few moments ago to what has really fallen into a bit of a lull across the battlefield. 4 players alive, but one of them in a much worse position than the others. The sustainability of Raps is not good. He is green around the gills, but the bait play works perfectly, leaving them basically into a 1 versus 1. The sprint comes out, attempting to dash over to get his teammate back up in the fight. He leaves himself exposed from the rear. Raps walks up, overpowers him there with the shots from behind, knocking him down and clutching out that round for Team 1. Oh, Tim, the fact that went down to a 1 versus 1 is crazy.
Really unfortunate for W7M there, because the timing, I've just written it in my notes just as it was happening before the round finish. The timing in that 2 versus 2 when they pushed the man behind bar was wonderful. It was so well timed. It was just an absolute no-win situation for him. But then I think just getting the down was enough there, and it just, like you say, pushed it into the 1v1, and ultimately Team 1 able to get it over the line. But W7M, I'm sure, well within the rights to feel a little bit hard done to there in round 2.
Oh, yeah. That is a little bit of a tilter, honestly. Especially with how the round went. When you get the opening pick so quickly, you're going to be sat there thinking, all right, this is, this should be easy pickings. From this point on, we have the advantage. They're going to have to conform around it. It should knock their confidence and make them play a much slower style of Siege, but they didn't. Instead, they went the opposite route, the route of just charging for those fights. The runouts, the wide swings, the sheer confidence of it, Tim, is crazy how much courage they had.
Yeah, they're looking a little bit scary there. As I say, Raps particularly got the run out and then was just absolute full sprint towards office. He was just looking for one gunfight after another. And if Team 1 with players like Raps, Philippox, Lukid are allowed to get into that sort of zone, that's what W7M prevented very well on Clubhouse. They need to have a look back, and other teams need to be having a look at that matchup on Clubhouse, and they need to be just trying to identify exactly how did W7M stifle those players in the early round. And right now, W7M, they need to get the carbon paper out, Jackie. They need a replica of that.
Oh, mate. Honestly, if you can effectively just somehow take that as a bit of a transfer sheet and do it all over again, not only will you be picking up rounds, you'll be doing it in style. Unfortunate fact here, though, for Herds, though, he's not able to style any fools. Looking through the broken floorboards, hopefully he won't get any splinters, but he certainly isn't going to get any entry frags, as they won't overstep. Falls, retreats, backs off a little bit, and at least clears the danger zone for now. We're at the 2-minute mark. Obviously, this has been clean 2 rounds now for Team 1. W7M, you've got to come in soon. You've got to pick yourself up at least around here and start to get that ball rolling, or else you're just going to leave yourself with no buffer whatsoever. And if Team 1 start to get confidence under their belt, especially based off how that previous round went, Tim, at that point, that's when I would be so scared if I was on the side of W7M.
Absolutely would be, and as you say, they need to come into this round strong here. 1 minute 30 in, they've not really had too much of an impact on things. Now, we are in hooker billiards, and as I say, we would expect this to maybe start playing out a little bit differently to how we've seen previously, because Smoke is off the board for starters, but were he able to play, he may not be able to hold this location that we would normally see. Now, the mute jammers are on the wall. That is going to become a very important feature here, because, of course, Ace up on the roof will be able to open that quadruple wall reasonably easily. So things like the mute jammers or potentially bandit batteries, Kaid electrocores, that quad wall is going to need defending. Now, right now, aquarium control has been gained. Information is being fed out that Team 1 are on the flank. Out goes the Lion scan, and that's going to allow Herds to push forward in towards that 90 corridor. He's looking for his fight. He's going to get it, but he's going to be taken down. He's going to wish that fight never came as Philippox shuts him right down.
Oh, and this is way better in terms of Philippox as well. This is what we came to know and love based off of his style of play. When he's on the alibi, you want to hightail it out of there and get nowhere near this man. If you see him, he is like the boogeyman, Tim. He will make you regret your every decision. It's crazy how good he can be at playing around those alibis and just making it effective with the prismas. Right now, though, there's a trade back at least, and this is where it starts to get quite awkward. You've now converted this into a 3-on-3 effectively. As Lukid, he's down on the ground. He might not be out, but he certainly isn't getting back up to try and assist in the firefights. The crossfire setup is there, waiting for the push to come through, but they don't need to overstep just yet. As long as Pedrin can get the diffuser down, they can win the round, but he can't, Tim. At the last possible second, he gets blown off of the diffuser, and it gets snatched away. They pull the rug out from underneath them and steal that one in the last second.
Great plant denial from Team 1 there. Didn't lose the heads. As you say, it was all getting a bit frantic inside. There were bullets firing left, right, and centre. Padrin's getting that diffuser down on the ground, but they kept their nerve. They just fought through it, managed to stop the diffuser going down. And ultimately, the time ticks away. The sixth defender, as we often talk about, the clock is one of the biggest enemies to the attackers, and it certainly was there. So closing out round number 3, and the bad thing there for W7M is now that's a complete rotation for Team 1. They've been through 3 sites. We're on a 2-round rotation. For anybody who's not aware what that means, basically it means if you win a site defensively, you can't play there for another 2 rounds. So you have to go somewhere else. Whether you win or lose elsewhere doesn't matter. You can't go back to that original site that you won for 2 rounds. So effectively, by the time you've won 3 sites, you can then go back to your first one again and just rinse and repeat, do the same thing. So right now, W7M, they have to bring something new to the table. And talking about new to the table, Jackie, as we've said, there are new things here on the LATAM broadcast. Now, I'd like everybody to just peep their eyes up to the top of the screen. We haven't mentioned it yet, but just have a look at that graphic up there on the old scoreboard, just above the scoreboard, on the bar at the top, Jackie. The map that we're currently playing and the previous map with the score. Thank you again, production. It's a beautiful update.
We took it all on board. You know, we like to get involved. That's why we always did the polls. We always encourage people to tweet. We always want you to speak your mind. And we kind of realised there was a lot of that information where people might have not known at what point we were in the series, might have not known the map score previously. And we've done some hard work to make sure that is now better reflected. So I hope it does make your viewing experience that extra little bit better. That's what we like to do, Tim. We're all about the small adjustments that over time build up into a big adjustment.
Certainly do. And right now, a big adjustment is going to be needed from W7M if they want to keep themselves fighting in this one, because 1 or 2 more rounds to the side of Team 1, and you've got to say it's looking like a 3-point win for them. They fought hard on Clubhouse to get themselves that win. 7-5 on the board. Redux fighting even harder here with a kill onto Padrin. Headshot is going to delete the buck from the map, but leveled up with a trade. Panico taking Redux out, and that's the Mozzie gone, and part of the Rome game shut down at least. 4 versus 4, pushing in towards kitchen and service. So as I sort of half said previously, generally speaking, they're going to want to get control over that top floor. Now, they've lost one of the vertical breaches in Buck, but they do still have Panico on the sledge. So there is still some value in taking over the top floor and starting to rip up those floorboards. But from what we can see at the minute, there are still men active on the side of Team 1 up on the top side of that map. So right now, map control not gained for W7M.
1 minute and 30 seconds left on the clock. Freezal really starting to test the limit here. He's got Overwatch, he's got support, and they've got a lot of utility to make his life easier to get this plant down. But it's not going to be easy. It will be a little bit of a struggle as he will try and get it planted. It does seem like we've lost the feed for now, Tim, but based off the audio, it seems like there is still at least a fight going. But it seems like we're back. Okay, 2 versus 3. That was just like a really long blink. Blink and you'll miss it at this point, as it's just Raps left in a 1 versus 2, it seems. Dropping down from the top rope, looking to try and clutch it out, but it's not going to work. It won't be them continuing an undefeated streak. Instead, it'll be W7M getting around off the back of some, hopefully, nice moves whilst we were blinking.
Freezo managed to get that diffuser on the ground. Only the first, I think it is, first successful plant that we've actually seen on the night so far. It's been few and far between. They've generally been shutting down. We've seen a few attempts this time around, or we might have had 1 successful maybe at the back end of Clubhouse, but certainly not very many, not as many as we might expect to see here in LATAM. We did have quite a lot of objective-based play. You know, we've got some of the best planters in the world, with players like PSK coming in, absolutely undisputed champion at getting that diffuser down on the ground, but certainly not something that we have really seen today. It's all been gunfights and action for us. Raps certainly making a great late effort there, but dropping in the courtyard, shut down reasonably easily, and that's going to put the first round on the board for W7M. We're attacking onto coastline, but this has been a great start for Team 1 so far. There is no 2 ways about it. They are going to head back to kitchen and service this time around, and really, what can they do differently? I think they need to have a little bit more success on the Rome game this time. The Mozzie was shut down reasonably quickly last time around, and despite there being men still on the top floor, they didn't really take any advantage of that, and they were taken out of things reasonably easily.
All right, well, you live and you learn. moving on from that point, let's see if they'll be able to at least yank it back immediately into the road they were going down. A road that, you know, Tim, I was getting close to suggesting the idea that maybe we were going to come out with a bit of a unicorn game. We're going to start off with the old mythological side of things, starting off with a bang. But I guess we'll have to save that one for later on. You know, no unicorn games yet.
Absolutely not, W7M. They're saying we are not going to suffer that first 7-0 seen in LATAM, and certainly not in the first matchup of the stage. And they start to fight their way back into it now. Moving aggressively into the top floor. We're only 30 seconds in. We see the Lion scan coming out there, and there is a man just hightailing it into VIP. Will survive to fight another day for the time being, but I'm sure that the net is tightening around him at the moment, and movement is going to become less and less free. We can see we've got one in Penthouse Theatre there, just trying to hold his ground for Team 1, not wanting to give up this top floor too soon. And he does have a man upstairs with him, but that is an interesting use of that ace gadget there to just open things up. Line of sight from the service door into the bathroom area, and now that's going to make it a little bit more difficult for these defenders to use that area to try and just deny any access to that area.
And it just goes to show how outrageous Ace can be at tearing down those walls from such a far distance as well. He's got a good throwing arm on him. You can lob them out, break down defenses, completely remove those hard walls, and just make your life so much easier. And even then, you can just use it as a gigantic distraction piece as well. And that's basically what they've gone for here. Allowing Freezeout to go for the rotation back around, slips in, opens up the diffuser. The second time it's gone down, but can they hold on to it this time? Or will the retake work out for Team 1? They're suffering losses. We have got Falls going down. He'll be overpowered by Herds as they start to group up, slowly making their moves back in. They get into the kitchen. Freezeout playing outside the window. He can try and cover this from the post plant. He's got 2 different access points he can work in towards. Sprints his way back over. 4 seconds. Will arrive there early enough. Pre-fires around the corner, Tim, but it's not going to matter. He'll clean up. It'll be down to Guy from a distance to find the final frag onto Felipox. Nomad rocking up and ends the story on that one. Another successful round going down from a smooth plant on the diffuser.
Team 1 need to find an answer to the kitchen window plant there. There was just absolutely nothing that they could do about it. With Freezeout getting in there, there was absolutely no challenge whatsoever onto him. There was nobody even really within striking distance of him. There was just absolutely no impact whatsoever that they could have over that play. So again, well recognised from Freezeout that the opportunity was there. Got himself in, got himself established, and got the diffuser down and activated on the ground. Great plays from him. 3-2 for Team 1, but W7M fighting their way back into things with 2 consecutive rounds, really starting to make a matchup of this now. I'm glad to see that we are moving away from kitchen. That is not too much of a surprise. I think it was necessary for Team 1. There's nothing wrong with going back and giving it another go if you do lose a round somewhere. But I think you start to get to a point where you're banging your head against a wall, and they were just absolutely nowhere near with a successful plant both times in round 4 and round 5 there on kitchen. So heading back up to the hooker and billiards site. We last saw this in round 3. Felipox opened us up with a big kill onto Herds, and basically it came down to the last 15-second bloodbath, sorry. And there was brawl in there, there was bloodbath, there was all sorts going on in the mix there, Jackie.
It was, you know, the squared circle had a lot of commotion in it, and hopefully it keeps up like that, mate. If this gets brought back, Tim, we do get at least, again, another 3-3 split towards the half. It means we're really going to be in for a treat going on. Coastline, honestly, had some of the more memorable games out of the major for me. Some of the runouts that we were seeing, some of the crazy little plays that went down. That's what I live for when we get a bit of Coastline. We've already had some of those sprinkled in. I just hope it maintains. Talking of crazy plays, this is again a bit of a bold one. Herds, he's been trying to go crazy with the high octane tempo plays. The amount of times we've seen him sprint in before we've even got through 30 seconds on the timer, Tim, is off of the charts, and that time it doesn't work out well at all. The Zofia instantly just rubbed out of existence. She's gone. Panico trying to time it with the high explosive. Can he get that frag grenade up there to do some damage? Launches it over. Won't hurt anyone, but does give him a bit of an access point. He could potentially use that to do some vertical play later on.
We did see Herds get a lot of entry kills in the last stage. 44 it was, but ultimately 51 deaths. So it just shows that maybe the the play isn't really, you know, the risk isn't really outweighing the reward in that situation, because ultimately he's not coming out on top of things, and it's what we're seeing here again. And there's nothing wrong with that early round aggression, but you at least want to be coming out positive from that situation, because once again, more often than not, and as we are seeing here, his team are fighting from behind.
Here's my thought process with it, though. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, but I do think a lot of what we saw from Herds last time was on the Ash. On that entry, that was where he excelled by far the most. I just have vivid memories of him really packing a punch on it. Obviously, with Ash completely being taken out of play here, especially just on coastline. Maybe it's making his life a little bit harder. It's not as clean cut for him to get in there. You don't have the concussions where you can just burn out those ADSs early on. You don't have that heart breaching tool as well to just make your life so much simpler. The only good thing you do have, though, is at least you've got teammates that really know how to hit their shots. Oh, on Team 1, one by one, Tim, they pick up. It's like a game of whack-a-mole. All three of them have given him 1 versus 1 opportunities. He's picked them to pieces and dropped us into this. A 3 versus 2 where the diffuser has now gone down. Luke, if he turns the corner, he needs to be quick on the draw, and he's not fast enough. It's all down to Felipox. This man might be on the alibi, but I don't think he has any alibi into the round. Ooh, although, I say that, maybe he wants to prove me wrong. Very clinical headshot on the first. The diffuser is down in a bit of an awkward spot. He can jump on it. They just need to listen out for this. Surely they've heard the audio cue. You've got to peek soon. Comes off with a bait play. Gets the 1 versus 1. He's holding on. The Lion of Pedrin trying to shoot round. He baits him off the bomb, Tim. He's not stuck it. He's come off with a diffuser, and he is trying to play Ring Around the Rosies. But running into him, he will fall. Genuinely, I think he could have just stuck it, Tim. From that angle, he had about 3 seconds left. If he would have just stayed on, I reckon he wins that.
Very, very difficult one to call, but I think you're right. He probably does have time there, with Lion having to make it all the way over from the hooker side of things. But Felipox ultimately went for the challenge. It was tense. My breath was held firmly, but ultimately it was a round for W7M, and they have really fought their way back into things here, taking 3 consecutive rounds to level things up in the half. 3-0 now, and we really have a game on our hands. And this is what we've been saying about W7M all the way through. They have obviously put some hard work into the break, and they are coming back fighting. They have got a tough first matchup against Team 1, but looking forward towards the rest of the season, this W7M team, they're going to be picking up wins, Jackie.
Oh, dude, 100%. 100%, Tim. If this is their first outing, first time we get to see them in the field for Stage 2, mate, they've got to have so much more up their sleeves. And keep in mind as well, right? Team 1 are not an easy team. They're not a pushover. For anyone that's new here again, you know, we're going to have to restate this many times. Team 1, they were #1 seed last season. They went into the major, stealing that top spot from the likes of Team Liquid, from NIP, from FaZe Clan, Tim. That in itself is a gigantic statement.
It certainly is. There's no two ways about it. They came out and it wasn't even really, they just dominated.
Yeah.
They really did. They came through and dominated, and Liquid were the only teams that had ever had a sort of a realistic challenge onto that top spot. And Team 1 certainly impressed. And this is much more for me about W7M than it does Team 1. I think Team 1 have come out here pretty strong. They're playing pretty well. We've had a great game out of Raps so far, and they've come out strong here on coastline, getting themselves 3-0. This is much more about what W7M are bringing to the table. And teams like MIBR, teams like INTS, teams like FaZe that finished in and around that 4th, 5th spot, even NIP in 3rd, they need to sit up and take notice of W7M here.
If Team 1, you know, they put a massive target on their back after displaying just how good of a squad they are, and you've got to think about the amount of teams that have probably studied that, looked over benchmarks, looked back through VODs, and tried to anti-strat them going forward. I really hope they haven't overlooked W7M, because if so, this is dark horse potential the whole way through the rest of the stage. At this stage in the game, though, we are tied up. It is 3 rounds apiece. We're here in round 7, off the back of the sides being flipped. We do lose out immediately on one of our defenders for W7M. This puts them into a bit of a worrying position, because already you're now fighting at a manpower disadvantage. You're into a 4 versus 5 straight from the get-go. If they can trade it back, at least it'll be manageable going forward. And that's on the hands of Panico to do some damage here. The Jaeger baits his way around the corner, peeking through the doorway, but can't cause any disarray. as he won't find a frag against Team 1. Herds has actually just been gifted a lot of information there, I believe, spotting Reduct on the cross.
I did. He's just going to hold his position for the time being, and we need to keep an eye on Herds and see exactly what he can bring to the table. Struggling in the entry game a little bit whilst they were on attack. You were absolutely right, Jackie. 83% pick rate on the Ash he had last stage, and with Ash banned out, he seems to have struggled a little bit here on coastline, but we get kills raining in either direction. 4 versus 3 we find ourselves. Padrin loses himself on the Maestro after picking one up, suffers a vicious riposte in the billiards room, and will be closed out of things, and that now leaves us with slight advantage Team 1, but the time is ticking. Nitro gets placed out, and I think just going to bide his time on that one and just wait for the call as to when there are attackers over the top of those explosives.
Time ticking down, second by second. The hourglass starts to run out of sand. But Herds, will he be the Sandman to send Twitch off the bed? Oh no! He's been turned on. Redux overpowering, trying to make himself famous with a famous. And in the end, it's Felipox to shut this one down. A connection there onto the face. Oh no, Tim. They've just rinsed them in the final few seconds of that round. There could have been a different timeline for that. There was possibilities gifted to them, but none of them are going to go the way of W7M.
I asked the question as to whether we were going to see something a little bit different out of Herds there, given that on the attack, we could argue maybe he's been target banned with the Ash going away and was struggling a little bit. He's on the defense now, doesn't have the same excuse there, picking up the Mozzie, but just unable to hit the shots onto the Twitch. You cannot, at this level, see an operator's back in front of you as clearly as that and then lose the fight. You just can't do it, Jackie.
You got to win those, Tim. You got to win those. Oh, it's devastating. It really is devastating. And, oh, this is what it gives them. This is the position it leaves you in. With Team 1 now again with an advantage, 4-3. And keep in mind as well, Team 1, they won that opening map in the series. They did lock it down on Clubhouse. There is a potential for them to get a 2-0 tonight. Not a 1-1, not just a draw, a full-on series win. And we saw throughout the course of last stage, Tim, full 2-0 series wins became quite lucrative very quickly.
They did. They were quite rare, to be honest. You know, we didn't see too many of them. These teams were, throughout LATAM, very evenly matched. And as you say, the teams that could pick up those full 3 points, it really did play dividends, especially further down the line. It was very easy to pick up a draw on a map and only get 2 points, or even just come away with the single point. Remember, we are in a best of 2, and it depends on the result of both maps as to how many points are awarded. So it could be a really big start for Team 1, and the sort of statement that they needed, Jackie, they need to show us that last stage was not a flash in the pan.
Oh, 100%. They've got to just really show that to be part of the legacy they're going to build going forward, not that it was a one-off. They spoke the talk, I mean, the entire time, right? Every time we got to talk to Bodega, he was saying how this is consistent stuff for them, how they expected to perform that well last season, and it wasn't a fluke. And honestly, they did back that up. They made it look like it wasn't just one-offs. It was happening every time we saw them. We're getting to the point where Team 1, we were almost starting to predict them to take on the big dogs every time. They just need to do that again now. And having a 1-round lead over W7M, that's a brilliant start. It means you're close to getting a 2-0 win in the series, but you have lost out when it comes to the one-on-one firefights. Your sledge is gone. You've dropped down on him, so Rap's out of commission. Rap's a player that individually tonight, he's had barrels of impact frags tied to them. He's had kill after kill back on Clubhouse, and he's still performing quite well here now over in Ibiza. For W7M, though, what are they going to do based off getting this opening pick? How does this alter their game plan going forward?
We can see now Ace is going to start opening up that wall. Team 1 then able to apply some pressure towards VIP. We are, of course, in Penthouse and Theatre, a site that we don't see defensively too often here. And with the change with Ace coming in, we might just see new sites open up, as I suggested, with Hooker Billiards dropping down in that popularity. Herds gets a nice kill from the courtyard after opening up the soft wall there to the side of Falls. And that's going to leave us now 4 versus 3. W7M looking reasonably solid here. There's still a minute left on the clock, though, and the utility required for Team 1 to get in towards site and have some real impact is still there, and they have control of the double window. And of course, we saw from Panico earlier just how effective those double windows can be.
3 versus 3 could very quickly become a 3 versus 2 because Zofia trapped out in the hallway. Nowhere to go, nowhere to turn, just bullets whizzing by. Reduct as well going to suffer the same fate as he is dropped by Panico. And all of a sudden, it's left on one man. Felipox, 10 kills to 5 deaths. He's on the ace. Ooh, and unfortunately, there's not going to be a possibility for him to overpower and lock it down. He won't keep on adding to the total tally here for Team 1. Instead, it's a very tiny pixel peek through the wall there. That's disgusting.
Certainly is. Like you say, that's one of them where you just wonder exactly where you caught those bullets from, but it doesn't matter where they come from. It matters where they end up, and you can see there an absolute beauty from Felipox on the replay. But ultimately, 4 versus 4, we are now level on the scoreboard once again, and my money's on 12 rounds, Jacket.
Oh, it's got to be. Come on, it's got to be, right? After Clubhouse Team, after what we saw with that, there's no way. If we don't get it, it wouldn't be doing the series justice between these two teams.
Certainly wouldn't be, and right now it is just entertainment galore, really. It just doesn't even matter who is coming away with these rounds. One way or another, they are exciting from beginning to end, and every battle feels like it hangs in the balance and can be won and lost in an absolute heartbeat. Doesn't matter what advantage players have got, it just seems like the others are capable of ripping it away from them. But round 9, we're going to be heading back to Hooker site, and generally speaking, historically, we would have seen this defended from nearby the A-bomb, where Freezo is now, and in and around that area, there will be a man. He's going to play the mute jammers down there, and the reason that he's doing that is he's trying to prevent any hard breach being attached to that wall, particularly from Ace for Felipox. Right-hand side of your screen now, he'd get himself right up on the ceiling, and he could throw that breaching charge all the way across onto that wall, open it up, give himself a nice long angle into sight. So that's why the mute jammers are so important here, and why they need to remain in place to prevent that from happening. But in terms of the attackers, what are they going to do? How are they going to try and take control of this site? Well, generally speaking, they want to try and establish a crossfire by getting control of Aquarium, and then usually having somebody on Hooker door, or potentially that single window into Hooker if they can do so safely, and just really prevent a lot of movement in sight to allow them to get in. Default spot is generally behind the bomb chassis, sometimes up on the billiards table, depending if there's a defender playing underneath with a nitro, which with herds on the board, that could be a real possibility. Padrin as well, Freezo. We could have nitros galore here, Jackie.
Oh, mate, it could actually start to turn into a bit of a detonation derby relatively quickly. And talking of rounds going by quite quickly, we have about 2 minutes left here on round 9. Ooh, I was going to say we haven't really had much commotion just yet, but here it starts to kick off. Falls busting out the skeleton key, it seems, as he'll be shooting buckshot after buckshot and dropping down Mozzie the Aussie, leaving him in his deathbed on the floor there, straight out of commission. Now starting to put the backs up of the rest of W7M, as I was going to say, Tim, that they're in a 4 versus 5, but it's really quite quickly started to deteriorate, leaving them with just 3 players alive and kicking, and it's getting worse by the second. This time, though, they start to flip things back around, using their utility to detonate the floor beneath Gui. He's going to be going down. It's all up to Panico and Freezel. 2 versus 4, outnumbered 2-1, with 1 minute and 20 seconds here to attempt to survive and stay alive in this round. All they've got to do is the 19-1 getting that diffuser down. They're in fairly close proximity towards one another. They still have map control towards both of the sites as well. It's just if they can keep it.
I am absolutely here for how hard fought this matchup has been, Jackie. What an opener we have been treated to. Coming in, I think there's a good chance we see all 24 rounds out of these two. It wouldn't surprise me for this one to go to the distance. It looks like Team 1 will more than likely sew up round 9 here. They find themselves 4-2. Panico low health and shut down by Raps, and that now leaves us in a tough spot. Not for long, though, because Felipox puts Freezo out of his misery. From VIP, actually from Hall of Fame, what a long angle. He pushes through into VIP, shuts the man down on double door, and that's going to be a successful round for Team 1 there. Putting that ace gadget to great use, opening up the VIP wall. That is another angle that you can get into sight, sometimes used instead of the man on the single hooker window. You can get a very similar angle through just to help protect that diffuser in going down if you get to that stage of an execute.
This is pretty clean. This is really going to get worrying for W7M, right? Like, Team 1 are just playing so well here. Some of the encounters, it feels like they shouldn't even be winning as well. A few of these 1v1s that have gone their way have definitely made their lives a bit easier, especially since we've seen them switch over to the attack here. Feels like maybe they're a little bit slow to the burn. A few of these defensive rounds, even going back to Clubhouse as well, it was quite a similar story. When they've been on the attack team, when they can set the pace of the game, they can go in and try and find entries. It's just smooth sailing for them. They're back on the open road, you know, they've got the cruise control on. Nice MPH.
Just a nice steady MPH throughout. As you say, they just start to look like they're cruising, but right now they need to cruise themselves into victory here as quickly as possible, because it could well slip away quite easily. W7M, they're going to be heading back to Hooker and Billiards once again. They were overrun in the last round here, so they've obviously got something in mind that can be done differently. Another way of approaching this. We saw Team 1 get themselves control of VIP, open that wall up, and that's ultimately where that final kill came from. Now we can see there is a Kaid Electriclaw on there this time around. I'm not sure how easy that is going to be to clear off. There are plenty of angles to be found here on coastline from places like the rooftop, but if that's up on the roof of that corridor, it could be a tricky one to clear off, so we might just see that VIP wall staying intact this time around.
Oh, go on. Give it to us. Do something ridiculous. Come on, Tim. We've been living for it. Oh, mate, we had so many of them throughout stage 1.
You know he's there. You know he's there.
They've got the info. They're not going to go for it, though. Oh, mate, the tension on this. There's so many moments where there could have been a ridiculous opening frag, and finally it will come out as the push is there. He bided his time. He waited till he was 100% certain that he could pull off the execution. Good synergy between, of course, Gee and Herds there off the back of the Valkyrie cams to give him that full read. He charges out, but they're going to do more. They're not content with just one frag. Peak by peak, Tim, they've thrown away the lead they had. They had built themselves a gigantic opener, and now all of a sudden it's fallen back into this. A 3 versus 2 with Philippox now finally back on his feet, leaving us in a 3 versus 3 stalemate after they had a 2-man advantage into the round. That is just shenanigans.
W7M just getting carried away there on the back of the double kill from Guy, and sometimes that can happen. It just goes to the head of a team. The adrenaline starts pumping, the excitement is up, and they think that they've got the other team on the back foot. But Team 1, they were alive, they were alert, and they were ready for the danger, and they managed to get themselves 2 back on the board and level things up. There is still an age of time left for W7M to absorb this pressure yet, and I am sure that pressure will come as Team 1, they start to adjust, they start to look at how things are likely to play out in a 3 versus 3. Where does the attack come from now? Where is the space opening up in this defense? And they open up a little bit more space in this defense as Herds will be shut down in the office on the Valkyrie. And that is a nice prediction from Team 1 there, knowing that one of those Nitro operators was likely on the downstairs area in office, ready to deny any potential plant coming in. And right now, they're not worried about finishing Herds off. They're focusing on the men left in sight.
40 seconds left here. Nitro. Ooh, pre-prepared, in hand, Freeze out, looking like he was starting to debate whether or not he needed to use that big boy to blow a gigantic hole, hopefully, into the faces of some of the Team 1 members. But the only people that are getting blown over is W7M for now. Hertz, he falls down to the DECK, leaving us in a 3 versus 2 here with 15 seconds remaining as push starts to come for shove. The panic spam through the camera, looking for info and looking for frags that will come out. Freeze out. Cleanly done there. A beautiful adjustment. Gets behind him as well on the flank. He's able to get the follow-up frag tip and drop it back into a 1v1. They can't plant. They can't pick it up. He's only gone and done it.
That was very, very close at the end, but what a kill from Freeze out. I've got fingers crossed that we get to see that one on the replay. I'm not sure that we'll manage to bring it quite so quickly, but we'll try and grab it at some point because it was an absolute beauty there towards the end. Left them in a 1 versus 1 as a trade reigned in as well, and it was right down to the wire, but making the exact right choice there to just keep himself alive, hidden away, and just let that clock tick down because the diffuser was down, out of reach, and Team 1 unable to finish things off. And I promised 12, Jackie. I promised 24, and that's exactly where we're going.
Oh my. Tim, this has just been crazy. Some of these rounds are outrageous. with the way they've been going. And the fact we've now got into this position, ooh, this is a little bit scary. Definitely one that is going to send shivers down our spines. 5 a pop, round 11, Team 1 versus W7M. The amount of crazy rounds we've had so far have just been shit carnage. And you got to look at the kills as well, just to understand how close this game has been. You have 12 kills for Redux, 13 kills for Philly Pogs. They are both slaughtering. They have been mean machines, Tim. They're looking like the Terminator right now. The T-800 just running through on a mission to kill everyone in front of them.
Certainly are. And right now, we are heading back to Penthouse and Theatre. We saw this back in round number 8, and it was a W7M victory. And a large part of that victory, I think, came from VIP. They managed to keep good control over this area. We can see Panico once again setting himself up there with the Kaid. It was the same operator he played in here last time, and Team 1 just really struggled to clear him out of there. If you remember, there was a challenge onto him at the single door, even towards the end of the round, Jackie, and he was still able to just keep drawing them in and baiting them into that kill zone. And that is something that they need to deal with this time around. They need to make sure that they get that VIP area locked down and under their control, because it just didn't allow them to ever focus on site. And we're going to have a quick rehost, and we'll have a little bit of chat about extensions when we get into the break here, Jackie.
About extensions, what's your favourite type? You enjoy a good patio? You know, do you like having the open glass roof so you can get the sun coming through?
Well, I mean, the obvious option for me has got to be hair, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, but the issue is with that,
They're going to have to be some serious extensions.
Yeah, but the thing is with hair extensions, obviously, you need a base layer of hair to clip them into, because they hold onto the hair. Or you just have to glue them straight onto the scalp. You'd need more of a wig.
I'm not going to go down that route, Jackie.
I'm just saying, like, you know, we could look into it, maybe for the next
maybe
major.
Try some as the stages play out. You know, as we go on, we could maybe try some different style wigs and see what fits me best.
We'll work into it. You know, what we'll do is we'll start getting a wig in. And next time we do a final, we'll get the wig on. We'll see what we do. We'll do a little fan vote and see which styles people prefer most. I'll get some hair extensions in. We'll make it work. We'll look like a right group of rock stars.
Yeah, I'm sure we will, Jackie. But the type of extension that I was talking about was, of course, the defensive type in Siege. And if anybody wondering what I'm talking about with an extension, basically it's where you see that utility from the defenders applied in rooms adjacent to or close by to the site. And effectively, what we're saying is they're extending their hold of the site. So they're not just trying to hold on to the bomb site itself. So in this case, I'm talking about Penthouse and Theatre. They're extending where they are playing and trying to physically hold on to VIP as well. So by doing that, they're getting a man out there. They're getting reinforcements on the wall. They're using that utility. ADSs may be applied in there so that it is more and more difficult to uproot him and move him away. And that's exactly what we saw. And it did them very, very well, because not only does it prevent direct access to site, it means that then the attacking team have got to be careful exactly what lanes they are using, what avenues they are trying to push through to get towards site, because we saw that towards the end of round 8. They tried to push that single door of VIP and were still shut down by Panico on the Kaid in VIP. And that is all what an extension is about. It's about burning time, it's about getting kills, and it's about preventing the attackers doing what they want to do. And really, Team 1, they need an answer to that.
They do indeed. It is a little bit worrying. Obviously, it is a little bit scary, because right now their biggest boon just seems to be like if they can hit their shots. What worries me about this game, Tim, is again, it seems like if you think back to Clubhouse, right, there was 1 or 2 rounds that could have gone a different way based off a couple of minute adjustments. Even with this one, if it was like, again, there's a moment of where you could have just stuck disabling the diffuser and probably pulled around out of the back of it. He had about 3 seconds when he was on top of it. The Lion was the whole way over, a reinforced wall that was blocking him, the new bomb models, of course, that make it so you can't just spam your way through. There isn't those slight openings. In my book, that's a round that's gone into the AFA that could have completely changed the course of the game. From that point, you've got the knock-on effect of being quite far ahead, where you could have really grabbed onto this one and sprinted towards the finish line. I feel like right now, it's kind of just outplaying yourself in a couple of small situations that has backstabbed them at the end.
Yeah, and you know, we could put that down to it's play day 1. We've had a bit of a break. It's all about coming back in and getting competitively sharp now, and that's what we will see over the next week or two. But as I said last time around in Stage 1, I'm going to say the same in Stage 2 now, and that is, whilst there is a little bit of leeway, a little bit of wiggle room, the beginning of things, you cannot let that drag on for too long. We saw NIP struggle throughout the season, and they were lucky to get themselves into the majors. It all came down to the final week, and I tell you what, in a different rotation, in a different stage, they don't even make it into the major there because it was just left too late. And that's what they've got to be careful with. They don't want to throw too many points away in the early game here.
No, you can't afford to. And that's why it is so important as well. When we were saying, like, literally over the course of the season, getting 2-0s became incredibly lucrative. For the most part, the most consistent thing we saw was a draw. That was, by and large, what we nearly expected out of a good majority of our games. So if you can avoid that, you can break the curse of getting draw after draw and starting off the season, especially with one, when it looks like you have the opportunity to seize the day and get that full 2-0, and you need to. They have to make sure they can pull out a 2-0 here, Tim, for me.
Well, you've only got to look at the final standings, Jackie. You take a look at the final standings last time around, there was 5 points difference between 4th place and 5th place. So effectively, between being in the major and not, there was 5 points difference there. So if you get 2 3-point wins and another team picks up 2 1-point draws, that's 4 points already. And that could be done within the first 2 weeks of the entire stage. You know, that is how important these matchups can be. I don't want to over-egg it, but, you know, right from play day 1, everything is crucial. Every point matters because we are not talking about huge margins between these teams. We are not talking about massive point differentials deciding who goes to majors and who doesn't. It wouldn't surprise me to see it even closer this time around, for that difference to be much less than 5 points. And if that's the case, you can easily find yourself looking back towards play day 1, play day 2, and ruin some of the results that you've had.
Absolute nightmare. Could happen if that does to come true. For now, though, we'll come back to the present, the position we're currently in. We'll stop thinking too far ahead. We'll start to wind this one back in. It is 5-5. It is round 11. Of course, we've got W7M over on the defense. Team 1 will be on the attack. Team 1, I think it's fair to say they've been excelling on their attack. It's been working out so much better for them. It definitely seemed like W7M were kind of target banned in the way it went down on their attack. Herds, he normally has so much success on the Ash. He is a great entry fragger. He knows how to play it to perfection, but there was no ability for him to do that. The operator was banned out from the get-go. He couldn't find his footing. He tried to make it work with some quite crazy and sporadic Zofia plays, but none of them really hit the mark. We can forget about that for now, though, because flipping on over, you've got Lukid on the Zofia. So let's see how he'll take his approach into round 11, and if we'll get some tasty entry frags coming out off the back of a man that over last season was a big performer.
We got some great footage there of the defensive extension being set up. Panico in VIP, just getting those reinforcements on the wall, applying the electrical, and just really using some utility to keep himself wedged in there. Now, interestingly, one to watch potentially, Foles is on the book, so one option to try and clear Panico out if they recognise how big of a problem he caused them last time is to get themselves into kitchen, get that control, and just basically block floor out from underneath him. It's all destructible, so they can just completely clear it out with the book. It's not an easy challenge to make on that reverse angle, so for me, I'd be thinking get myself into kitchen, get control of downstairs, open up that floor with Falls, and just prevent Panico from playing in there for too long. We're already nearly halfway through the round. Team 1 need to get a wriggle on.
I do indeed. Like a worm that is very excited to see rain. Let's see if they can try and make some moves, Tim.
Smooth, Jackie.
Thank you. Oh, I do try. I do try.
We always like to bring it back to the animal and insect world. That's what we're all about.
Come on, you know, they're the most relatable, right? You know, everyone knows a little bit about animal facts. We're like the Discovery Channel.
Stream, you'll learn some.
Oh, hopefully Herds will learn that that is not the play to be made either. Falls, brilliant work. A little bit of tactical espionage there as he waits, baits him in round the corner, pushes in, gets the opening pick to him onto the Valkyrie and spots out the pre-placed Nitro. So now that is removed as well. Good clean entry.
We can see one person has not picked up the Rook armor there. It's always an interesting frustration for the Rook players, I think. They like everybody to take their armor, and it gives you a down but not out guaranteed. Panico is going to put down Raps, but there is no down but not out a possibility there, as it's the headshot that reigns in for Leapox, however, trades back with one of his own, and the percentage of headshots seem to have been off the chart so far. We've seen quite a lot of them now that I think back over the 2 maps that we've seen so far. But right here on Coastline, we find ourselves 4 versus 3. Great work has been done to open that theatre wall. I'm a big advocate for that. It makes this a very difficult site to hold on to because it forces the defenders back into Penthouse. Now, remember what is in Penthouse? A nice, big, double window. It is not a place that you really want to have to play from, but Team 1 are not taking advantage of that fact just yet. Padrin gets himself a kill. 3 versus 3. Reduct is getting the diffuser down. Can he stick this? He is certainly going to try and will be successful, but he now finds himself 1 versus 2 with Freeze Out and Padrin left on the board. They will get the kill, and Freeze Out it will be to move in and get onto the disable of that diffuser. W7M guarantee themselves a draw here on Coastline.
And now you've got to look at it for what it is. The 2 routes we could go down with this game. W7M pick up another round. They come in back to back, feeding off the hype of getting themselves into the position, Tim. And they take the series 1 map apiece, giving it a draw here on our opening game day for the opening series of Stage 2. The other option, of course, Team 1. They bite back into it. They have another clean attacking round, and they take it 6-6. From that point, it is going to be unknown territory into the OT, and that's where things will really start to spice up.
W7M, they're going to be looking to close this out here and get round number 12 on the board. But if Team 1 can level things up at 6-all over 12 rounds and get a draw, they will take 2 points on the night because of that initial win on Clubhouse. So, as I said earlier, we do look across both of the best of 2 maps. 2 wins will get you 2 points. A win and a draw will get... 2 wins will get you 3 points. A win and a draw will get you 2 points. A win and a loss, 2 draws will get you 1 point. And a draw and a loss or 2 losses will get you 0. Zip, squat, diddly on the scoreboard. But Team 1, they will not be happy with 1 point overall. I am sure this will have been a matchup that they came into. No disrespect to W7M. They were a good mid-table finish team last time around, but Team 1, I am sure, will have been looking at coming into this and giving themselves a great start. And already not getting 3 points, I am sure, will feel like a bit of a loss to them. They will know that the opportunity was there, but W7M, they've certainly put in the work. Very impressed with them on the day today, and they would deserve every ounce of that point if they can force a draw overall here.
That's what they need to work towards. That's what it's all about at this point. We're over the no return mark. 2 minutes and 40 seconds here as we go into the final deciding round. And W7M, if you're going to win it, you got to do something crazy. They risk it for a biscuit, and they grab themselves a beautiful big bourbon off the back of that one, Tim. That is a banging opening frag. You've dropped for Leapox. You've taken out the ace from the opening moments there into the round. That is a clean way to get an entry frag. Better than that as well, it sends a message and it drains so much utility from Team 1. Their lives are now incredibly harder when it comes to actually getting in through those hard walls.
Padrin's crammed that bourbon in one. Jackie, there's crumbs in the bed, but he does not care at this point as he goes in for a second. He just dunks it in his tea, smashes it in, and puts his team even further in the lead. Reduct it will be with the riposte to shut him down, but not before W7M find themselves 4-3. Could they come through and get the win on Coastline here? Could they manage to get themselves a draw overall? Time is ticking away halfway through the round, and it is certainly looking possible right now for W7M. The pressure is starting to mount, but they are still alive and fighting up on the top floor. Here comes the challenge on to the Valkyrie. Lukid pushing in towards Penthouse now. I think he knows that the Valkyrie's just dropped down the hatch there, so he's just looking at the vertical angle. There was a hatch just at her feet, so she was able to escape, to wriggle away from the walls that were closing in.
Time running out 3 versus 4. Nitro placement could mean everything, but it's not going to be good enough on the detonation. Herds, he won't pick up another frag and send ripples through the nation of Team 1. Instead, the game stays alive for now. Headshot, though, is really going to mop up Lukid and bring them into an even worse spot. They have 50 seconds to get onto a site, crack open that diffuser, and shut down the game. But the only thing that's being shut down is their hopes and dreams. Reduck might get a backstab off, but that is basically going to be as good as he can get. You leave yourselves in a 1 versus 3. No chance of getting your moves up there towards the diffuser to grab that. You don't have a clear access point towards the site, and you don't have any HP, Tim. He is 1 bullet away from the end of their story, and for this series to go 1 map apiece. Oh, they nearly line up for him. They nearly give him something to look forward towards, licking his lips as he goes down, but that is the end of that one. We are done and dusted here on Coastline, and it is going to be a 1-1 split, a draw, something we came to expect throughout last season.
Always unlikely for Reduck to be able to pick that one up there, as you say, particularly his HP was a strong cough away from death, and that's all it took in the end. Just one graze puts him down in the grave, and that's going to be W7M. I cannot make any argument whatsoever